The crowd went wild the second her name flashed across the screen. It wasn't just noise. It was a visceral, physical reaction that shook the very foundations of the arena. Pyros exploded, turning the darkness into a blinding canvas of gold and red, and the atmosphere turned electric. She is back. But this time, she's not just returning to wave to the fans. She's taking over. This is the moment the entire WWE universe will be talking about for years: fire, fury, and absolute dominance. Think about the sheer rarity of a moment like this. In an era where spoilers leak within seconds and rumors spread faster than facts, genuine surprise is a dying art form. Yet, here we were. The dirt sheets didn't have this one. The insiders were left just as stunned as the front row ticket holders when that specific chord hit that recognizable, terrifying sound that signals her arrival. It took a full second for the brains of 20,000 people to collectively process what their ears were hearing. That 1 second of silence before the eruption is what we call the ignition point. It's that breathless gap between normalcy and chaos. You could see it in the faces of the commentary team. Their headsets nearly fell off as they scrambled for words that wouldn't come. The cameras shook, not from poor operation, but from the sheer vibration of thousands of people jumping to their feet simultaneously. It was a masterclass in suspense, proving that no matter how much we think we know about the scripted world of wrestling, it still possesses the power to grab us by the throat and demand our absolute, undivided attention. She hadn't even stepped through the curtain yet, and the landscape had already changed when she finally emerged through the smoke. The reaction shifted from surprise to something deeper, primal sort of reverence, mixed with fear. She didn't run to the ring. She didn't smile. She walked with a deliberate, predatory slowness that told a story all on its own. Every step was calculated to let the reality sink in for the viewers at home and the roster watching backstage. This wasn't a reunion tour. This was an invasion. Watch the faces in the crowd during these moments. You see grown adults reverting to childhood states of pure awe. You see others clutching their heads, unable to process that the rumors they dismissed for months were actually true. The energy in the building wasn't just happy, it was heavy. It carried the weight of history, of past rivalries that were suddenly reignited without a single word being spoken. The shockwave of her presence immediately dwarfed whatever match was currently happening in the ring. The competitors, who just moments ago were the center of attention, effectively became ghosts in her presence. They stopped fighting, not because the script told them to, but because human instinct took over. When an alpha predator enters an ecosystem, everything else freezes. She stood at the top of the ramp and simply looked around. No catchphrases, no posing. Just a silent survey of her kingdom. It was a chilling reminder that some stars don't need to ask for attention. They command it by simply existing in a space. The noise level sustained itself, a roaring white noise of adoration and anxiety. Everyone knew that whatever plans they had for the next few months, whatever title pictures were being drawn up, had just been violently erased and redrawn in her image. While the arena was consumed by euphoria, a very different emotion was taking hold just beyond the view of the cameras. The locker room is a fragile ecosystem, balanced precariously on hierarchy, tenure, and promised opportunities. Her return didn't just excite the fans, it sent a tremor of genuine anxiety through the current roster. Imagine you have spent the last year clawing your way up the card. You've taken the bumps, traveled the endless miles, and finally secured a spot on the premiere show. Then, in one night, the glass ceiling you thought you broke suddenly reforms, thicker and higher than before. Her return means less time for everyone else. It means main events are now occupied, microphone time is reduced, and the spotlight you worked so hard to earn is suddenly shifted to someone who hasn't been there in months or perhaps years. There is a complex tension in wrestling locker rooms when a legend returns. Outwardly, everyone must show respect. They must tweet their excitement and smile for the backstage segments. But inwardly, it's survival mode. You could see the shift in body language of the current champions in the ring as she walked down that ramp. Their glare wasn't entirely acting. It was the look of people realizing their grip on the top spot just became incredibly slippery. This is the hidden drama that makes these moments so rich. It's not just about the returning hero, it's about the displaced talent. The resentments that build in these moments often bleed into the on-screen product, creating rivalries that feel intensely real because, at their core, they are founded on genuine professional jealousy and the desperate need to protect one's own hard-earned territory against a returning conqueror. High above the ring, in the production trucks and executive offices. This return wasn't a magical moment, it was a high-stakes gamble. Bringing her back wasn't cheap, and it certainly wasn't simple. Negotiations for a return of this magnitude often take months of secret meetings, complex contract language, and promises about creative direction that can upset the entire balance of the company. The executives knew that by pressing the go button on her music, they were effectively mortgaging the immediate future of their current storylines for a massive short-term spike in ratings. It's a dangerous game. If she doesn't deliver in the ring like she used to, the investment fails. If the fans turn on her because they prefer the newer stars, the investment fails. They were banking on nostalgia. Yes, but they were also banking on her unique ability to transcend the sport. She is one of the few who brings in casual viewers, the people who stopped watching years ago, but will tune in just to see what she does. You could almost hear the collective sigh of relief in the production truck as the social media trends began to skyrocket instantly. The gamble appeared to pay off in the first 5 minutes. But the suits know better than anyone that the initial pop is easy. Sustaining it is the hard part. They had now committed to a path that would require dismantling months of careful planning. They had to trust that her star power was still bright enough to blind the audience to the inevitable inconsistencies that arise when you drop a nuclear bomb into the middle of long-term storytelling. It was a move made out of ambition and perhaps a little bit of desperation to create a moment that felt truly must-see. In the modern era, a return doesn't truly happen until it trends globally. The digital reaction to her appearance was faster and more intense than the broadcast itself. Within minutes, timelines were flooded with clips, all-caps reactions, and the immediate mobilization of her dedicated fanbase. It was a digital tsunami that drowned out every other topic in the world of sports and entertainment for that hour. What's fascinating about the social media reaction is how it acts as an immediate barometer for success. You didn't just see excitement. You saw the immediate formation of digital battle lines. Fan accounts that had been dormant suddenly sprang back to life, dusting off old profile pictures and reigniting ancient hashtag campaigns. It felt like a sleeping army had been awakened by a single trumpet blast. This meltdown also exposed the intense emotional connection people still held with her character. There were videos of people crying in their living rooms, genuine tears of joy for a scripted entertainment product. That level of connection is rare. It speaks to the memories she helped create years ago, memories that people associate with better times in their own lives. However, the speed of the internet also meant the immediate rise of unparalleled scrutiny. Every frame of her entrance was dissected within seconds. Did she look happy? Was she moving well? Did that slight hesitation on the ring steps mean she was already second-guessing this? The digital crowd is a relentless detective agency, searching for cracks in the armor before the armor is even fully strapped on. The euphoria of the return online lasted perhaps an hour before the inevitable debates and over-analysis began to take root, proving that in the modern age, no moment is allowed to just be pure for very long. As the dust settled from the initial explosion, a clear divide began to form within the fan base. You had the faithful, those who believed she could do no wrong, who saw her return as the second coming that would save the division. To them, her mere presence was enough to justify whatever chaos was about to unfold. They wanted the nostalgia. They wanted the hits played exactly as they remembered them. Then you had the skeptics. These were often the hardcore fans who had invested deeply in the current roster. They saw her return not as a salvation, but as a disruption. They worried about the younger talent who would be pushed aside. They argued that relying on stars from the past is a crutch that prevents the future from ever truly arriving. This conflict between fan factions actually fuels the fire of the storyline. WWE knows this. They know that by bringing her back, they are intentionally igniting a civil war among their viewers. They want the arguments, they want the angry Reddit threads and the passionate defensive tweets. It creates a unique atmosphere where every match she has moving forward will be viewed through two wildly different lenses. Half the crowd will be cheering for her dominance. while the other half will be desperately waiting for her to fail so their current favorites can reclaim the spotlight. It transforms a standard wrestling match into an ideological battle about what the future of the industry should look like. She isn't just a wrestler anymore. She's a lightning rod, absorbing all the conflicting desires of a brilliantly fractured audience. We often forget the human being beneath the larger-than-life persona. To come back with this much fire and fury requires a toll that is rarely discussed on television. The decision to return likely wasn't easy. It meant leaving behind the comfort of a normal life, a life where her body didn't ache every morning and where she wasn't subjected to the ruthless critique of millions. There is a certain addiction to the roar of the crowd, a siren song that calls legends back even when they know they should stay away. But the physical cost is immense. Returning to ring shape is brutal. It's months of unseen quiet torture in gyms, rehabbing old injuries that never truly healed, and preparing the mind for the grind of the road. When she walked out, if you looked closely past the pyro and the glitz, you might have seen a flicker of that weight in her eyes. The pressure to live up to her own legacy is heavier than any championship belt. She isn't just competing against the current roster. She is competing against the ghost of her younger self. Every move she executes will be compared to how she did it 5 years ago. The fans demand that she be exactly as they remember her, frozen in time. But time doesn't freeze. She has aged, she has changed, and she carries new life experiences that inevitably alter who she is as a performer. The sacrifice isn't just physical, it's the emotional burden of knowing that you can never truly go back, even as everyone demands that you do exactly that. The ring she stepped back into is not the same one she left. The landscape of the WWE has evolved. The athletic standard is higher, the pace is faster. The women she is now staring down grew up watching her, studying her tapes, and figuring out exactly how to beat her. There is a distinct danger for a returning legend in underestimating the new generation. They are hungrier, faster, and have nothing to lose. She walked in with dominance. Yes, but it's a fragile kind of dominance. She is now the prey. Every young superstar knows that taking her out is the instant golden ticket to immortality. This dynamic creates a fascinating narrative tension. She has the experience and the aura, but do they have the edge? You could see the younger talent at ringside, not just intimidated, but calculating. They weren't just watching a hero return. They were watching a target paint itself on her back. The new landscape doesn't care about what you did 10 years ago. It only cares about what you can do tonight. She demands respect because of her past, but she will have to earn her survival in this new present. It's a classic gunslinger returns to a town that has moved on scenario. The town might be happy to see her, but it doesn't necessarily need her anymore. And that realization is often the hardest pill for a returning legend to swallow. If we strip away the storylines, the fire and fury, and the scripted animosity, we find something profoundly human at the center of this return. Why do we, as viewers, crave these comebacks so intensely? It's because they remind us that second chances are possible. They reassure us that we can always return to the places where we once felt most alive. Seeing her stand in that ring again wasn't just about wrestling, it was a defiance of time. It was a statement that she is not done yet, that she still has something valuable to contribute to the art form she loves. For many watching, it mirrored their own desires to recapture lost glory or to return to a passion they had to abandon due to life's circumstances. The true emotional weight of the moment came when the mask slipped for just a fraction of a second. Perhaps it was a slight tremble in her hand as she held the microphone, or a glistening in her eye that wasn't scripted. Those are the moments that hook us for life. We realized we weren't just watching a character. We were watching a person realizing that they are still loved. In that split second, the barrier between performer and audience completely dissolved, leaving only a shared, raw human connection that no amount of pyro can artificially create. As the show went off the air and the initial high began to fade, a deeper realization started to set in. We all assumed she came back to win, to dominate, to collect more gold for her mantle. That's what the fire and fury promised. But perhaps the true purpose of this return is something entirely different. Maybe she didn't come back to reign. Maybe she came back to say goodbye the right way. The twist that many of us are missing in the heat of the moment is that this likely isn't a new beginning, but the beginning of the end. Every dominant champion eventually has to look at the lights for the next one in line. Her return, wrapped in aggression and dominance, might actually be a selfless act in disguise a grand stage setting to elevate the one person capable of finally ending her legendary run. The beauty of this moment isn't in the fury she brings now, but in the eventual tragedy of her inevitable fall. We are watching a sunset disguised as a sunrise. And knowing that this might be the last time we ever see her burn this brightly makes every second she's on screen infinitely more precious. She is back, yes, but only to teach us one final lesson in letting go.